Hey guys, 15. I gotta go.
Okay.
Talk to you
Okay,
later.
bye.
Why don't you come and see what everyone seems to be talking about?
Well, it is our hope and prayer that daily, Monday through Friday at this time, we present something worth talking about. And we think that you agree with that because we hear from you quite regularly with full phone lines. It's Take Two with Jerry and Debbie. I'm Jerry Usher, along with Debbie Georgiani and our show team, Rich, Matt, Jeff, everyone at EWTN. Thank you to our affiliates. And Debbie, we thank especially our listeners for listening and, of course, calling in.
Oh, absolutely. You guys make the show. So thank you so much for just participating and praying for the show. We're almost going up on 3 years, right, Jerry? In
June
June it'll be
15th, yeah.
June 15th. It'll be 3 years, and it's just been a fabulous three years. I hope you've all learned and grown from your experience of listening to Take Two, and that's what it's all about. But today, I'm excited about today's show, Jerry, because I'm still cracking up. No pun intended. I'm still cracking up at the show meme that Jeff Burson, our social media expert, put up. He put on with the title of the show is "I Want to Belong." We're talking about the human need for acceptance and how this world, with the use of technology and the internet and everything, has made it very easy for us to alienate one another. And the meme that Jeff put up is hilarious. It's a dozen eggs, and they're the typical, white shelled eggs, and then there's one brown egg in the middle of it. And it was just hilarious because it reminds me of how sometimes we can really feel like we're our own little island in the middle of the world, and it's very interesting. And so we're talking today about this human need to be accepted, to belong. We all want to feel connected. I mean, unless you're a dedicated, monk, if you will, and you want to be all by yourself, that's a whole different story. And I think there's special graces and gifts that are given to those wonderful human beings that want to be in complete solitude and in a prayerful state. I get that, but for the most part, the rest of us want to belong. Wouldn't you agree, Jerry?
I would agree. I think like you said, it's a basic. I think it's a basic human need. Really, we are created, like you said, it's a special calling for those who maybe step away from other people, hermits and monks and so forth. But yeah, I think God created us to be in community, to be have interpersonal relationships, certainly with God Himself, but also with others, our family and our friends. And it really is. It's too bad. It's really kind of sad, Debbie. I see a lot of people in the world today who just you look at them and their mannerisms, just the way they look, they just seem kind of down and out. Like they're wondering, am I accepted? Does anybody notice me? Am I important? Do I have a purpose? And so I always feel really sad when I see people or even hear people talk about that.
And let's face it, Jerry. The use of technology with emails and text messaging and Facebook and everything, it allows you to disconnect. It really does. I mean, you can pretty much carry on a complete relationship with somebody else via text messaging. And that is problematic on many levels. And the other thing, too, is it can also be used to really push people away and to really isolate people. We know that on Facebook and other platforms, it's been used to really harass and hurt other people and to bully other people, especially teens. I mean, the increasing rate of teen suicide should be really startling for all of us. And yet we seem to go along with it thinking, okay, well, this is just what's happening in this world. It doesn't have to be that way. We can change it one person at a time. And so let's talk about this. I mean, we all have this need for the most part, okay? So what are we doing to work towards accepting ourselves first and then others. I mean, because we have to, yeah, you also have to, let's face it, you have to accept yourself too. I mean, you can't just go out there and hope that other people are going to accept you if you're not even showing yourself that respect as well. So let's talk about this. And is the world supporting it, or is the world working against us? And what can we do as Catholic Christians? There's a lot of angles to this. So we want you to weigh in on it. 833-288-3986. That's the number to call to be on the show.
Maybe there are times when you feel shunned or shut out by others. What does that feel like? I mean, how do you respond to that? How do you maintain an awareness of your God-given identity and purpose when others don't seem to accept you as the person you are? This happens to all of us at times. How has that experience been? How did you maintain your rootedness, in God and in who you are? 833-288-3986. And here's something else. Does the idea of accepting others, recognizing, affirming others, does that have to come without restrictions or boundaries? I would say no. I would say it doesn't mean we have to want to have, lunch with everybody that we encounter or everybody that we know. But I think, Debbie, the whole idea of acceptance is simply looking at the God-given dignity of every other person and recognizing that for what it is.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. And the other thing too, Jerry, is there's been a lot of studies done, or a lot of scenarios set up especially for life skills, where they set up certain circumstances, and they ask people what they're thinking and what they think other people are thinking. It's very interesting, because sometimes we think we're not accepted when we really are. I mean, people may be accepting, they just may not be showing it, or they may not even be thinking about it, and we're thinking we're being shunned, but in reality, the next person we encounter really isn't thinking that about us. It's very interesting how in our own minds we can be our own worst enemy when it comes to this feeling of being accepted. And maybe we're never going to be accepted in this world, because you look at St. Augustine, our hearts are restless until they rest in you. They're restless because this world is not going to give us everything we need. And so it's very interesting that maybe this whole conversation is going to turn into another direction, that we just need to really focus on what the end goal is, and the prize, obviously, and the goal is heaven.
All right, phone lines are open. They are filling up right now. If you'd like to be one of the first callers, 833-288-3986. And if you do have trouble accepting yourself or receiving, maybe like Debbie said, you might think that you're in a group, you're in an environment, and you're not being fully accepted or fully recognized or affirmed or whatever. But they are doing that to you or for you, but you don't feel that way. Maybe there's something going on that you've put your finger on. Maybe there's been an experience in your past or something where someone did kind of disrespect you or didn't recognize your dignity. We can certainly talk about that, and also want to put this idea out there as well. How important is it that we learn this at a young age? Okay, Debbie, I'm thinking of, when we're young, in school, for example. I remember, when you line up and you pick, you get team captains for basketball. I picked Billy, I picked John, and Jack is the last one, last one being picked. What can that do to kind of this whole idea of feeling accepted among our young people, picking sports teams, the cliques that develop? So I think it's very, very important that parents and schools really are working to, create this idea of acceptance of all people at a young age.
Right. I have to tell you, as soon as you said that, my palms started to sweat. That was the worst part of gym class. I couldn't stand it. In fact, I used to. Did you ever do this where you knew who the captain was going to be, and you'd be like, "Listen, we'll go have lunch together later if you'll pick me first."
Right. Or when you counted off, 1, 2, 1, 2, you'd always look down the line and you shift over a spot or two, And,
yeah. Why do they still do that? Don't they realize that the ones that are left still standing? It's just sad. It's just, I mean, I was last one time. Were you ever? You probably weren't last. You were pretty athletic.
Yeah. I was probably always the one, picking all of my friends. I was probably doing the choosing, but yeah, I think it's so vital at a young age that, because we see so much of this, with bullying and kids having, trouble in school and anxiety and so forth, and a lot of it centers around being rejected and not being accepted. So yeah, I think that's very important.
Well, and even us adults, Jerry, real quickly, just before we go and go to break, I just wanted to say, adults, we tend to pull away from others when there's difficulties happening. I see it all the time when people say, that they've got a cancer diagnosis or they're heading for a divorce or something. All of a sudden, everybody abandons you. It's like that's when you need people the most. And yet out of fear or ignorance or whatever, or just, they don't want it. Somehow they think it's contagious and they don't want it to jump over to their side of the fence. People run away. And it's very unfortunate because it's a great opportunity for us as Catholic Christians to demonstrate Christ and how we encounter other souls. So let's talk about this from all different angles. That's what Take Two is all about. It doesn't take two of us to do the show. It's Take Two. We take a second look at things. So, and that requires your participation. So if you would call in, we would greatly appreciate it. 1-833-288-3986. I think we set the table just fine, Jerry.
I think so, yeah. If what Debbie just described has happened to you before, maybe you were very well accepted by family and friends and peers and coworkers, and something happened in your life, and all of a sudden you were like, okay, where is everybody? Have they sort of stopped accepting me, or maybe kind of turned away from me? Jesus had that experience. We all had that experience. 833-288-3986. Your takes reign supreme here on Take Two with Jerry and Debbie.
Teresa Tomeo.
It's our goal to help each and every listener take this beautiful faith of ours out into the public square with great ideas on making a difference through engaging the culture.
The leading Catholic voices are on EWTN Radio.
The Holy Father's prayer intention for the month of May is that Christians in Africa, in imitation of the merciful Jesus, may give prophetic witness to reconciliation, justice, and peace.
Christ is the answer, with Father John Riccardo.
First passage comes from Mark 2, beginning in verse 1. So he's gone back to his hometown now, or the town where he's making his home, Capharnaum. And it says, after he returned to Capharnaum after some days, it was reported that he was at home. And many were gathered together so that there was no longer room for them. And he was preaching the word to them. And the whole town's there. And they came to him, some people, bringing to him a paralytic carried by 4 men. So they removed the roof above him, and when they made an opening, they let down the pallet on which the paralytic lay. But Jesus doesn't heal him. Jesus says to him, I forgive you. Which we may not be all that shocked by, but the crowd is irate over, particularly the Pharisees, who say to him, why does this man speak thus? It's blasphemy. Who can forgive sins but God alone? Somehow Jesus, in saying this, is communicating not just to the man, but to everybody, indeed to all of us who hear it, that he was somehow offended in the person's sins, and he also has the authority and the power to forgive them.
This is your show, Take Two, with Jerry and Debbie. I'm Debbie Georgiani, along with Jerry Usher, and you. You are the key person here, so you got to call in. We're talking about belonging. We want you to belong to this group of callers today at 833-288-3986. Just real quickly, I just wanted to highlight Call to Communion with Dr. David Anders this afternoon at 2 p.m. Eastern Time. Wow, what a show. I'm telling you, Jerry, when Dr. David Anders finishes his purpose here in life, they're going to just put his brain in it. They're going to do something at science. I mean, I don't know how he recalls all the stuff he does, and he does it all from memory most of the time, and it's fabulous. Anyway, Monday through Friday afternoon, and it encores at 11 p.m. Eastern Time. So if you're not Catholic, call Dr. David Anders with questions about the Catholic faith. He shares the answers in such a beautiful way. He's very intelligent, but he's very real, and that's awesome. So please call in and ask him questions.
Okay. Take Two with Jerry and Debbie on EWTN Radio. We're going to get to your calls right now. 833-288-3986. Talking about this need for acceptance. How do we show acceptance and still, again, maintain some boundaries, but also show that respect and dignity? And if you felt shunned and unaccepted, how did you still just maintain your peace, especially rooted in your knowledge of who you are in God's image? Paula is first in State College, Pennsylvania, listening on Sirius XM 130. Hi, Paula. Welcome to Take Two with Jerry and Debbie.
Hi, Hi, thanks for taking my call.
Sure.
I don't know exactly how this fits, but it just really pushed something that I've been really struggling with. We moved from an area in Illinois where I lived was in a very Orthodox, strong Catholic community, and I was a teacher, and it was very easy, I have to say, to be Catholic where I lived. And God took us out and here we are in Pennsylvania, very different area, very different, church, getting used to kind of just the way things are. But what I found is he's really introduced me to a lot of different people, and people that don't always think and believe what I do. And it's been something that God has just put on my heart to just love. And I'm in a Catholic homeschool group, and in this group, people will say, I have a family member that's this or that, or doesn't think or supports a different politician or sexuality. And people get on and they're like, oh, gross. Oh, don't let your kids around. Don't this, don't. And it's just so mean-spirited. And I have a 16-year-old that on Facebook sometimes she'll see some of this, and she's such a generous, loving person that she's like, Mom, I don't even know about being Catholic. These Catholic people are so mean. They're so unaccepting and not loving. She goes, you may not agree, but that's still God's child. So we pull out the catechism, we talk, and my heart is just growing because I just had a friend leave today that we are very different. And she was raised Catholic, fell away years ago, but I just thought, you know what, she's a really I'm just going to love her for who she is. And she knows my differences, I know hers, we talk about things, and today when she was leaving, I just thought, she knows I'm Catholic, she knows this, so I took my holy water bottle out. I said, I'm going to give you a blessing. And she's, thank you. I just so appreciate that. I want that blessing. And I just saw how far she had changed and come. And she was talking about, let's say some prayers for this person or that. She didn't used to be like that. And I thought if I had just said, oh, no, we don't agree on a lot of things, let me tell you. We look at our commonplaces, and we're really strong together there. But I just hear this about loving and not leaving people out, but yet I see it all the time.
Right. Well, Paula, what you're doing, uncharitableness, exactly. What you're doing and what your daughter's doing is exactly what our Holy Father, Pope Francis, is telling us to do, is to lead with our heart, to lead with love. But, the thing about it is I think sometimes we as Catholics, if I may say this, we can appear very harsh and very rigid, and that's simply out of ignorance. It's not out of mean-spiritedness necessarily. It's out of ignorance of how to approach others. And the thing about it is,
when they talk, I don't mean to interrupt.
No, go
but
ahead.
when they talk amongst themselves, and they're just very, very mean. It sounds mean-spirited on this site where, that's gross. Don't let your children near them. Don't that.
Right.
I wouldn't go to have them for dinner. I wouldn't do. I don't understand.
Well, and here's the thing. When I go back to that, there's a fear element that plays in. There's an ignorance level, and then there's also just, they want to make sure they're not compromising the beliefs of our faith, which is very admirable. I have to tell you, because there are a lot.
I don't want to do that either.
Exactly, and this is where I'm going with it, Paula. This is what's so beautiful about what you do. You're not compromising your faith. You're just leading with love, and that's the method you are choosing, which is what our Holy Father tells us to do, and to reach other people where they're at. And then that's a beautiful thing. The encounter you're having is going to evolve naturally, organically, and it's going to be beautiful. And hopefully it brings people, closer to God. Where these other people are, it's unfortunate because they're missing out on great opportunities to evangelize and to really be in the world and to try and help shape the culture to be more geared towards God. So what I do, Paula, is I pray for all those other people, because I even have some of those people in my family, my immediate family, and it's
do that, yeah.
Yeah, I pray for them all the time that their hearts would be opened and they just lead with love. What do you think, Jer?
I can't add anything more to that. I'm glad to reference Pope Francis and his example and his his exhortations to all of us. But yeah, I mean, this in no way means that we have to accept what somebody might believe or practice if it's contrary to our faith or whatever. That it's kind of a separate question, really. And I think Paula has shown by her what she has said that when you do lead with that loving attitude, it can help really melt hearts and bring people around. And that's really our ultimate goal, I think, is in accepting all people, is trying to get them to see who they are, who God made them to be, that they are loved, and that there is a God, see Christ in us, and hopefully, come to a relationship with Him themselves. So, yeah, I love what Paula had to say.
Yeah. Thank you so much, Paul. And I'm glad you led off the discussion, because I think it shapes it to bring in the broader view of this whole idea of acceptance and the human need for acceptance. So thank you, Paula, very much. And your daughter sounds fabulous. So you two make a good mother-daughter combination there. That's awesome. And happy Mother's Day to you, because it's still Mother's Day week.
Yeah. Thanks, Paula, for the call. Appreciate that. 833-288-3986. Sarah Rose is next in San Antonio. San Antonio Rose, listening on Guadalupe Radio. Hi, Sarah Rose. Welcome to Take Two with Jerry and Debbie.
Hi there. Can you hear me?
Yep.
All right. So very, very briefly, because the call screener, I kind of laid it on him thick. So Mother's Day was this weekend. This was the first Mother's Day for me. I have a 9-month-old little girl, and my mother passed away 10 months ago to the day of my daughter's birth. So this is the first Mother's Day that I have with my daughter without my mom. And it's just been really hard, because my mother was diagnosed this time last year with a fatal diagnosis. And they said she maybe had 6 months to a year, and she made it 3 months. And I buried my mother at 8 months pregnant, and I was really surrounded by a community of love and prayer and support. But then when I had my baby, people didn't really know how to reach out. So they did the best they could, but I still felt very alone and very isolated, and like I didn't really know who to call on. And, oh goodness, I don't mean to cry.
No,
this is all part of the process, I guess.
It's fine, Sarah Rose. It's fine.
I went back to work in November, and I was not ready or prepared to leave my daughter. And I actually went through a mental health facility and kind of got evaluated a little bit. And it's been a long process. So I recently left my job. We parted ways a month ago today. And by the grace of God, my husband and I have both started new careers, but at the same time, it's just a lot of change all at once. Because 2 weeks before my mother passed, my stepfather passed. Not my stepfather, my husband's stepfather. So my mother-in-law has been widowed twice, and our family's just been through a lot.
Yeah.
And it's hard, because you have all the prayers and support and love and the community around you initially, but then you turn around, and a month or two later, when it really sinks in, there are very few people that you can call on.
It's shocking.
Or who will. Yeah. It's just tough.
Jerry, can I go first just real quickly?
Sure.
Okay. Sarah Rose, can you give us your mom's first name? So we have a prayer book for the living and the deceased. We'll pray for your whole entire family, but we would love to enter your mother's name in.
I would love that. I've actually been listening to y'all forever, and I just can't get my name on. I can't get online long enough to add her. Her name is Kathy.
Kathy with a K or C?
With a C.
With a C. Okay. Then the other thing I just want to say really quickly is that, because I'm a mom, I'm a grandmother now, and you are so blessed. You have so many things to be grateful for with your beautiful 9-month-old little girl, which, by the way, 9 months is my favorite age. I love that age. And you have your husband, and you have so much to be cherishing with your family. But right now, Sarah Rose, you're still grieving. It sounds like you were very close to your mother. Mother's Day just happened this weekend. It's always an emotional day for so many of us anyway. And, you're still grieving. What I would recommend is please continue to seek out support, professional help with friends, support groups, anything you can enlist to help you and serve you. You need to take care of you because you've got to take care of that little girl.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
Okay.
She's wonderful.
Oh, I bet. I wish I could squeeze her.
I'll post a picture somewhere if I can find how to do that.
Yeah, or you can email it to us at take2@ewtn.com. But what is your daughter's name, Sarah Rose?
Hannah.
I'm sorry?
Hannah, Hanna.
Oh, Hannah. Okay. Yeah. Beautiful, beautiful name. And I just want to reaffirm what Debbie said, Sarah Rose. It's, you've been through a lot. I mean, you just described, what a lot of people don't have to experience. I mean, we all experience death in our lives, death of a parent, a loved one, a family member, a friend, but these have kind of come, fast and furious in your life, and I think your head kind of can probably be swimming in all of this sometimes, in your heart as well. And so, like Debbie said, just give yourself an opportunity to, to shed those tears. I mean, you've got a little bit emotional here on the program, and that's fine. That's beautiful, and I'm sure there have been many other moments when the tears just flowed freely, and let that happen. Let the Holy Spirit just kind of come in and cleanse all of that out of you. And then, like Debbie said, recognize the gifts that you do have, because you do have many, especially your husband and your little girl, and that is your most important circle of relationships
Vocation,
right now. So, yeah. We'll be praying for you, Sarah Rose, and for your mom, Kathy, and all of your family. Thanks for calling Take Two with Jerry and Debbie. We're going next to Peter, so stay with us.
Jumpstart your faith. Now coming to a parish conference or retreat near you, world-renowned Catholic radio host Jerry Usher.
It's not enough to stop doing whatever it is that's keeping you from union with God. For most of us, there are serious issues that need to be addressed first in order to be able to embrace that life of virtue. All those things we're all called to, but which every one of us struggles to achieve.
Invite Jerry Usher today. Contact thirdmillenniummedia.com.
It's time for Family Man with Dr. Gregory Popchak.
No one likes to get angry, but sometimes we can't help it. Anger is a God-given response to injustice that's supposed to motivate us to address the problems we encounter. Of course, wrath is one of the deadly sins, but anger isn't always sinful. It all depends on what you do with it. For instance, anger is righteous, even godly, if it causes us to make an appropriate, proportionate, and productive response to an injustice. Alternatively, anger becomes sinful if it causes us to lash out in ways that are inappropriate, disproportionate, or unproductive. Be careful to not let your anger add to the injustice. To learn how to manage anger and all your passions more gracefully, check out my book, Broken Gods: Hope, Healing, and the 7 Longings of the Human Heart. I'm Dr. Greg Popchak, but you can call me Family Man.
To discover more ways faith can enrich your life, visit CatholicCounselors.com.
EWTN, communicating the faith.
Here's one thing that I would recommend, what I call gap time. So, for example, you're driving in the car. When you're at home, maybe doing dishes, what are you listening to on the plane? See, I use all those gap opportunities and fill those gaps with things that are going to strengthen and deepen my faith. So I listen to EWTN podcasts all the time because I also want to learn and grow and deepen in my faith.
EWTN. Live truth. Live Catholic.
Hi, this is Cy Kellett. Later today, 2 great hours on Catholic Answers Live. Carlo Broussard, first hour, discusses the intercession of the saints. And second hour, it's Pro-Life Open Forum with Stephanie Gray. Catholic Answers Live, 6 p.m. Eastern, right here on EWTN Radio. Now back to Take 2 with Jerry and Debbie.
Full phone lines here at Take 2 with Jerry and Debbie, so we'll go back to the phones right now. And I believe next up is Peter in Detroit, Michigan, listening on Ave Maria Radio. Hi, Peter. Every time I say Peter, I want to say The Rock. Hi, Peter. Welcome to Take 2.
Don't say that because you're going to start me crying. I know that was part of the conversation of the previous calls, and when you say that, you've got me crying now.
Oh my goodness.
But nonetheless, I'm going to brazen through this. The reason I called was because on Mother's Day, which we've been talking about you've been talking about quite a bit, I just happened to be talking to my mother. Now, I have a telephone prayer team, people that I call and we pray the Our Father, and some of us pray a Hail Mary too. Now, my mother is not a member of the Catholic Church. They're part of the Protestant part of this whole thing. And so I said to her, Mother, would you be interested in praying a Hail Mary today? And she said, well, we don't normally do that. And I'm like, well, I'm calling you today because it's Mother's Day. And Jesus had a mother. And there's nothing, we're not worshiping her. We're just basic, Hail Mary is like saying, hello, Mary. And it's basic. I'm going to start crying. Sorry. It's like saying the same thing that we do on Mother's Day. Hello, Mother. Right. And so I just want to get a message out to all the Catholics who have family members who perhaps are members of, what do we call them, Protestant denominations, and they don't, they think that we're Mary worshipers, and we're not Mary worshipers. We're just people who acknowledge Mary as the mother of God, of Jesus, God. And so, in fact, if they truly are Christians, they understand that Jesus is God and that Mary is the mother, and it was just something that kind of serendipitously happened, and I thought, well, this is something that I'd like to share with all of the people who might be listening right now, because it was kind of a revelation to me.
Yeah. Hey, Peter, you're really making some great points. And yes, the church's, title, the title that the church gives to Mary as Mother of God, that title is about Jesus. It's not intended first and foremost to say something about Mary. It's intended to say something about Jesus. And this was a result of a heresy that denied the divinity of Jesus back in the early centuries of the church. And the church says, we have to address this. And so what they did is they worked through the logical steps that you just did. Jesus is divine, therefore he is God. Mary is the mother of Jesus. She can't be just the mother of his humanity. She's the mother of the person, the divine person, Jesus Christ, the Son of God, second person of the Trinity. So by applying that title, Mother of God, to Mary, it really is a Christocentric title when it gets right down to it. But yeah, so, and I love, Debbie, weaving this into acceptance. Peter's mother is not a practicing Catholic. She is a Christian of another tradition, and yet he felt he wanted to bring her in, show her acceptance on Mother's Day, and she was receiving of that and accepted his invitation to pray that Hail Mary. So I think that it's a beautiful testimony.
Yeah, it's a great testimony, and it was a great opportunity for you, Peter, and you took it at a perfect time, and your mother was open to it. So I just love that about you. Also, too, I just wanted to say, keep up your spirit. You have a genuine, you can tell your heart, you lead with your heart. It's very beautiful. So God bless you. I think that's awesome. And, I just want to say another thing, too. There's a lot of adult sons that don't call their parents on Mother's Day, doesn't call their mothers or grandmothers on Mother's Day. And I feel sorry for them. I really do, because what you did, Peter, I think it just warms a mother's heart, and that is just beautiful. And then you brought the Blessed Mother into it. And so it's just perfect. So thank you so much for the call, and we really appreciate it. And I'm curious, how did your mother respond to the encounter when you invited her to pray?
Oh, goodness. Okay, so I can talk. Sorry, I hope I'm not interfering with what you were saying. She was very open to it. It was not anything that was difficult for her. But the point I'm trying to make is I also call my Aunt Sheila, who is Greek Orthodox, and we call the Mother of God the Theotokos. Mm-hmm. So we don't have any problem with dealing with that, because the Orthodox and the Catholic both realize the reality of who Mary is. And it was just, it was like, she didn't complain or anything, but I just said, Mother, this is where it was the angel Gabriel that said, Hail Mary.
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of people in the what do you call it, Protestant churches want to know what's in the Bible, and that's in the Bible.
It is in the Bible, and there are a lot of thousands of great books about that. One that comes to mind right away is Behold Your Mother by Tim Staples of Catholic Answers. I certainly encourage people to look for and obtain a copy of that book. Peter, thanks for your call from Detroit and your beautiful soul and spirit adding to our program today. We appreciate that. 833-288-3986. A lot of calls to get to here, talking about acceptance, accepting ourselves, accepting others, how we deal with maybe not feeling accepted sometimes. And Catherine is going to go next. She is in Amelia Island, Florida, listening on Sirius XM 130. Catherine, welcome to Take Two with Jerry and Debbie.
Thank you so much for taking my call.
Sure.
I've spoken to the two of you before, and I both want you to come down to Amelia. When you were talking about acceptance, this is very, very brief but important. In 1969, my father passed away, and I was in the 8th grade in a Catholic school. Pretty popular kid, probably more because of my older brothers playing football and what have you, but pretty popular kid. And so accepted through the time my dad was so ill. He had lung cancer, and the kids were just great. We went to Mass every day. We did everything together, and they were always praying for Dad. When my father died on December 19th, of course, we had the Christmas break, and when I came back, you would have thought I had leprosy. The kids didn't know how to talk to me. They didn't know what to do. And after, like the second day of that, I guess it was, I came home, and my wise mother, what's wrong? And I told her what had happened. And she said, tell them. And I said, what do you mean tell them? And she said, tell them what they're doing is wrong. Don't yell at anybody. Just tell them. I don't know how you're going to do it. Just do it. So I get to school the next day, and we're having a basketball game. And all of a sudden, I'm realizing I'm just kind of standing there by myself. We haven't picked anybody or done anything at that point. And I stood up there, and I said, excuse me. And everybody turns around and looks at me, and I said, my father died. I didn't. What happened to everybody? How come no one's talking to me anymore? Mm-hmm. So the teacher didn't know what to say, so she said, okay, Catherine, you're going to be from Team A. You're going to be the leader. And I back up briefly. The most unpopular kid in our class, the chubby girl, she had bad skin, she was all these. She came up to me when I got back to school and said, I'm so sorry about your dad, and she gave me a hug and then ran away. Well, I didn't pick her first, but I picked her second to be on my team. And it changed my life doing that. It meant to be an I got you thing to the popular kids. And after I did it and her face lit up, I got to tell you something. It was my father talking to me. It was the best thing I have ever done in my life. And Sister Ignatius Marie, who was not a very cuddly lady, put her arms around me. And I thought, okay, I will never forget this as long as I live.
Right.
So what I do now is I talk to parents who have lost, a partner, a spouse, to talk to their kids. If they know somebody else who has lost a dad, please talk to your children and say to them, go up and talk to them and say, let's do something. Let's go to a movie. Let's do whatever. Don't ignore. It is the worst thing that you can do.
Right.
And that's all I wanted to say. And I love you guys.
Oh, well, we love you too, Catherine. Thank you so much. Your dad's first name? Can we put your dad's in?
Joseph Augustine.
Joseph Augustine. Wow. Catherine, I want to just say real quickly, highlight a couple points that you just made that are huge. And I'm glad. See, this is why we know this show is Holy Spirit driven, because your call is exactly what we wanted to weave into this discussion, and that is what your mother's advice was phenomenal, because so many times we think we we are assuming what other people are thinking, and we don't know what they're thinking. We don't know that they are uncomfortable or they're not sure what to say or whatever. You have to express the need. And what you did, standing up at a very young age and saying to your friends, come on, guys, what's going on here? I just lost my dad. And I didn't die. I'm here. Be there for me. You have to teach people how to treat you, and the thing about it, especially when there's been a very traumatic situation happen, or there's an illness, or there's something that's going on, you have to really walk people. You have to connect the dots for people, if you will, because most people are kind of scratching their heads going, well, what do I say? What do I do? The best thing in the world is just to stay quiet and go away, because then I won't say the wrong thing. So what you did was brilliant, because had you not done that, you might have, fallen into a very sad feeling throughout the rest of your years with these classmates, because you'd be holding on all these emotions. And what you did is you took it upon yourself to change the direction of it, and it changed your life. Like you said, forever. What do you think, Jerry? Do you see where I'm going with this, that you have to express it?
Well, yeah, the last thing you just said was what came to my mind is, Catherine very matter-of-factly and calmly just kind of expressed where she was at the time. And there was, a lack of understanding on the part of her peers, her friends. And so that turned their mindset around. But I was going to say the same thing that you did. If we kind of bottle that up and stuff it down, who knows? Years later, it could come out in very unhealthy and negative ways. And I think that it's beautiful, Catherine, the way they responded. And I don't know if you were expecting that response from them or not, but, it sounds like you did the right thing, and things turned out beautifully for you. So I'm very happy to hear that.
My expectation was that I was probably going to have to leave school that day. I thought was going to happen. But the reason I'm calling, Debbie, is because you had said earlier with this situation, a situation like this, that people feel like it might be contagious or something. And that is exactly what the kids thought. If I get close to her, my dad will get sick or what have you. And once we finally talked about it, that was their fear.
Right.
And it's incredible. But thank you so much for what you do. You make people, you just make people understand themselves a whole lot better. So thank you.
Thank you,
Bless
Catherine.
Thank you. Appreciate that. Appreciate your very insightful take on Take Two with Jerry and Debbie, talking about acceptance today. And we will move right along with your calls. If you're on the line there, be patient. We will get to as many of you as we can. We appreciate you being with us. Krista is next, listening on EWTN.com in Michigan. Hi, Krista. You're on Take Two with Jerry and Debbie.
Hi.
Hi, Krista.
Thanks for taking the call. You guys have an awesome program.
Oh, thanks.
Thank you.
And yeah, so I am responding to the social media aspect of acceptance and isolation and all that. I think it's not necessarily the media or social media that is the problem. It is just the platform for the bigger problem. Mm-hmm. And as you said, throughout society, everyone wants approval and validation, but doesn't have a good relationship with God necessarily. And so, by the nature of creation, we long for that relationship with our Father. And when somebody is denying that need, I don't believe in God, or they don't see that as an actual need, desire, their longing, it doesn't go away. It just gets misplaced. So then they're on Facebook, Snapchat, Twitter, and it becomes a search engine for that validation. And then when it's not there, or it decreases, or they don't get invited to the party, I think that's when, the depression sets in. And truthfully, I think the teen suicide, which is a huge issue, by focusing on cyberbullying, we're too shallow with the problem. It's not just those being bullied. It's not the actions of bullying. It's the platform in itself, because nobody has to tell you weren't invited to the party. Nobody has to tell you that, there's something wrong with you. You just look at picture after picture after picture, and you go, my hair doesn't look like hers. My eyes aren't like hers. I don't have a body like his. Whatever it is, they're constantly able to compare what otherwise you wouldn't even know unless you had a personal relationship with somebody and you knew what was on the inside, right?
Right. Wow, a couple
Yeah.
things you said, Krista. One thing was, it really hit me. It was profound. You said the social media can be like, would you say, a search engine for validation? Wow, that is, I had never heard it put that way before, but it's so true. And what I'm hearing you say, and Debbie, I think this goes back to, you made the point at the start of the show, Debbie, that when we're talking about acceptance, it's not just others accepting us or us accepting them. It's us accepting us, you know? And I think this is one of the things that Krista is pointing out here, is that a lot of young people don't have that sense of self-acceptance, that sense of self-worth. They're trying to find it outside of themselves, inside these little gadgets, and with all of these quote-unquote friends that they think are friends. And so I think Krista's point is right on, Debbie. I don't know what you think, but...
Oh, I was taking notes like you wouldn't believe, Krista. In fact, I wrote that down, the search engine for validation. That was talk about profound, amazingly profound. But I totally agree with you on so much that sometimes we try to fix things with a narrow lens, and we have to broaden it, especially in this day and age when so many other factors play are key to some of these tragedies that are happening, especially with our youth. So I agree with you, and I think that the more we talk about it, like, where are you going to talk about this? That's why Take Two is so awesome. We can talk about it freely, because you can't really, I mean, unless you're going to talk about it in your homes, and in a lot of homes they're not having these discussions. But if we can talk about it now, there's people that are listening that can really be, people that can help change things and help shape the culture, like you just did with your take, Krista. So this is huge. I mean, you had a global platform, so a lot of people are listening, and I just appreciate you taking the time to call in and sharing this all with us. And if it's okay with you, we may be borrowing that phrase, the search engine for validation. I think that's phenomenal. Thank you. Is there anything else you wanted to say to us real quickly?
Well, just I think how to step out of that then. I've got a teenager, and realizing the problem is only half of it, but to encourage real relationships. So we oftentimes take away the phone, so we can't be on Snapchat or things like that. I really have to go a step further, and what are you doing to encourage relationships, one-on-one personal time, without those false validations, things like that. But I'm honored that you want to use my phrase, and I am just so grateful for your program and all of EWTN. So keep up the good fight. Thank you.
Bless you, Krista. Thank you so much for listening and calling in. We appreciate that. I just want to make a quick mention of a wonderful book that EWTN Publishing has come out. It's brand new. If you're curious to know anything about the angels or more about the angels, who they are, their role, their solicitude of us, Father John Horgan, a wonderful Catholic priest, has written a book called His Angels at Our Side, Understanding Their Power in Our Souls and in the World. Boy, we could use some more knowledge of this in our day and time. His Angels at Our Side by Father John Horgan. He will help you learn how to imitate the angels in prayer, how they offer you the enlightenment and encouragement that God so desperately wants you to have, and you'll be strengthened for what lies ahead, better able to discern God's will in all of your life. So get a copy at EWTN. EWTNRC.com. His Angels at Our Side by Father John Horgan at EWTNRC.com. Okay?
I highly recommend the book.
You love the angels.
Of course I do. Yes. Tricia, we're going to you now in Thompson, Georgia, and you've been listening so patiently on St. Paul Radio. Hi, Tricia. Welcome to Take Two with Jerry and Debbie.
Hi, guys. Good to talk
Tricia.
to you. I really enjoyed Catherine's testimony about her dad and the way, her mother was so wise, and Catherine took the advice very bravely. I just wanted to mention I have a daughter with severe autism. She's an adult now, but when she was a child, she knew from the very beginning, as young as 2, that she was different, and she hated it. There wasn't really anything, we could do to help her through that. But at school, it was particularly brutal. I can remember, she was in the age of inclusion, and which sounds great. But, with 42 other kids in her class, she was really left out, coming home and just not understanding why she wasn't invited to birthdays. And my husband and I joked that we would put something on a bulletin board saying, have present, want to be invited. But, our church was particularly hurtful. I had taught Sunday school. Actually, I was director of of the education program for a while. And when she was in 6th grade, we were asked not to bring her back to Sunday school. She always acted great at, she just didn't understand the lessons, but she had no behavioral problems. Now as an adult, she's very severe, and I won't go into the reasons I think that is. But I think feeling not belonging was very hurtful for her. And since 2010, we've been a member of this church. We're very active. My husband's a deacon. I teach again, Vacation Bible School, Christian Ed. She used to be able to come. She can't now because of her behavior, but it's kind of like, our friends don't even really want to mention her or talk about her again, and that's just super hurtful to me. So I was just, reaching out to people and letting them know, look around and welcome people, and, don't just ignore people's problems, like you said. That's all I have to say. Thank you.
Well, thank you for raising awareness about this, Tricia, because we all need to hear it. And I just want to say on behalf of that religious education group that you encountered when your daughter was young, I'm sorry that you went through that. That should have never happened. And like you said, your daughter was not had a behavioral issue in the classroom, and even if she couldn't absorb the lessons, her being there is great, and that's where the Lord can speak to your daughter in many ways, as you know, with your husband being a deacon and you're the wife of a deacon. So you get that, and I'm sorry that they made a very poor choice that really left you very sour towards that. However, I will say though that again, I have to go back to this. I think there are a lot of people that are just afraid of things that are different. And I don't know, I don't understand why we don't do this, but I think sometimes that just in our human nature, we think that we're going to offend people if we ask questions. The very first thing I do when I see somebody in a wheelchair, or I see somebody who has definitely, clearly they have visual signs that something is a little different, is I ask questions. And most of the time, the parents or the child themselves, they freely give the answers. And then you can connect. Because when you know things about other people, you can connect soul to soul. So Tricia, I'm glad you called in, and I'm sorry but you're a great mom. You're a fabulous mom, and I'm sorry you had to encounter that the world was harsh to your daughter.
Well, we love your show.
Thank you, Tricia. Yeah, I would say, and this really goes without saying, it shouldn't have to be said, but, someone like her daughter, Debbie, should be especially welcomed in an environment like that. I mean, the old saying, WWJD, what would Jesus do? I mean, let's just look at the Bible, and I think we get the answer to that. Thank you, Tricia, for that call. We appreciate it. I'm going to, let's see, we had an email, take2@EWTN.com. This kind of ties into what Tricia was saying. Maria sent this by email. It's hard for disabled folks to be accepted by the culture because I'm one of them, but I choose to serve God, not mammon. I am legally blind due to CP. And so Debbie Maria is experiencing a lack of acceptance because of her health situation, which is unfortunate. I'm sorry to hear that, Maria. And then we had on Facebook, Steve. Let's see, where is that again? Steve weighed in on Facebook. He said it's sad when parents are not. He said it's sad when parents are not on Facebook and have no idea what their children/grandchildren are being subjected to. And I think that's a truism as well. Yeah.
Well, this was a really healthy discussion today, and I'm so glad we had it because I think it just brought to mind how we are to behave as Catholic Christians. We're to be kind to everyone, and we're to love everyone, and we're to be. We don't have to compromise the truths of the faith. Absolutely not. We should not compromise. However, we can lead just soul to soul and connect. And that's what our Holy Father, I'm going to circle back to our Holy Father. And that's what he says we need to do, Jerry. And he encourages from the priests all the way to the lay faithful that we have to do that.
Yeah, and we had, I think Malcolm in Canada wanted to know when Matthias was chosen over Barsabbas as a replacement for Judas, did Barsabbas feel rejected or a lack of acceptance? Well, as the biblical account says, the apostles prayed and cast lots, so it was the Holy Spirit's decision. So I don't know that Barsabbas could have a problem with that, and I doubt that he did. But Malcolm, thanks for getting a hold of us. Debbie, it's the month of Mary, and we're going to talk about that tomorrow.
And we're going to have you finish the sentence. I love the Blessed Mother because... And you finished the sentence. And we're going to honor Mary tomorrow on Take Two. David and the others, I'm so sorry we couldn't get to you. You can always email us at take2, the number 2, at EWTN.com. Please forgive us. This time moves very quickly. Go ahead, Jerry.
I was just going to come in and say thanks, everybody, show team, affiliates, listeners. Blessed be Jesus Christ. Father, we thank you for all good gifts, and we ask him to give you a beautiful and blessed day. Debbie and I will be with you again tomorrow.